Can good design shape a better world? At Monocle's Quality of Life conference in Barcelona this September, we'll be putting that question to the people who already are. Join leading designers, architects, and creative leaders as we explore how design intersects with culture, business, and everyday life. Plus, great food, excellent company, and plenty of Catalan charm. Find out more and book your seat at monocle.com/conference.
This is Monocle on Design, a show where we discuss everything from architecture and craft to furniture and graphic design. I'm Nick Manise. On today's program, we're coming to you from 3 days of design in Copenhagen. We speak to a host of creatives from across the globe who have come to the Danish capital to showcase their latest work. We'll talk to Australian furniture CEOs, London-based creative directors, and discuss the link between wellness and design. All that coming up on Monocle on Design. Hello and welcome to today's program. Now you'll hear just straight off the bat that we are recording in the great outdoors because we're coming to you from Copenhagen's 3 days of design. By the time this show airs, the event will have wrapped up. If you listen to the show for a while, you know what this is all about. If you've not, well, welcome. And for context, this is an annual design festival held in the Danish capital. It's unique in that it's not confined to a single exhibition hall. Instead, participating brands, designers and studios host exhibitions, product launches, installations and events in showrooms and galleries across the city. It's attended by furniture buyers, creatives, designers, and, of course, some amazing design journalists. Speaking of which, I'm joined by two of them. We've got Monocle's Associate Editor, Grace Charlton, and our Copenhagen-based correspondent, Gabriella Delasanti. Gab, kick us off. Where are we recording right now? Paint the picture.
So it's a gorgeous sunny day. We've been so lucky this year with the weather. Just a couple of weeks ago, it was like raining and windy. And yeah, we're just standing here by the water. Very Copenhagen scenery just opposite the new opera park. Beautiful, beautiful place. And Kobe's Paper Island still under construction, but it's a beautiful day.
And this is what it's about. We are in the city. We're out and about. We're not stuck in a conference hall or a trade hall looking at furniture. We're actually kind of experiencing and living design. Would you say, is that an accurate reflection, Grace Charlton, Monocle's Associate Editor?
For sure, and I think 3 days does lifestyle, even though I hate that word, so well. Like, all the cafes have little design activations in them. We've got a George Jensen ice cream truck going around the city, Canadian brands setting up bars. So I think that's what's really nice, the way that they infuse hospitality and fun into design.
Is that a little bit of a trend? I hate the word trend as well, but is that something you've observed this year?
For sure. Also, another trend I've observed is maybe the fashion industry beginning to creep into Copenhagen. Last year we said that it was still very siloed, but I think every year it's just going to get bigger and more popular.
What this city has, which is really strong, is a really tight-knit creative community, which is actually something that you can see all year, but 3 days really becomes a celebration of this community. It's a very collaborative city from that point of view.
It feels like design is very much embedded in Danish culture in a way that, talk to anyone and they can probably name the chairs in their living room. They could rattle off a few key designers. And I think maybe that's what also kind of sets this apart. It's truly like almost living design, whether you're sitting in a cafe or scooping ice cream, which I think you were doing earlier for Jörg Jensen. You're actually seeing these products in a context that isn't typical, I guess, for a trade event. I know you went and saw some exhibitions and installations. Gab, can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, this designer and architect called Charlotte Taylor curated this space in the city center, and she's worked with, I think she told me, 37 different designers to recreate this apartment in use. She mimics her home and her space and how she likes to treat a space. All these works from designers all around the world. She's worked with an Athens-based brand making shirts to a London-based studio making really nice steel lamps and mirrors. And it was very messy, but it was like a curated mess, if you want to put it that way.
Well, let's hear from Charlotte Taylor, whose exhibition Home from Home was on show during 3 days of design in Copenhagen.
I have quite a nomadic practice with my work, because I travel a lot for work, and I'm always trying to create a sense of home where I travel. And it's, semi-silly things like Sudoku and a striped shirt and rearranging the furniture. It's as soon as I arrive somewhere, I take half an hour to restyle the place and for it to have some sort of semblance of home for me. So this project was sort of based off that and then scaled into this concept where we've gone into every single detail, and the idea of it is that you walk around and it has that familiar feeling. And the fact the styling's changing throughout the day, it's reflecting a life lived there. And there were all these little personal touches from my home, like really dodgy fridge magnets, calendars, and bringing a bit of tackiness into design as well, and taking away that serious tone of a lot of furniture shows.
And tell me a bit about that when you walk in compared to when you walk in many of these showrooms that you see around town. It's strikingly different. Can you tell me the thinking behind that and what you want to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my practice in my career has been based off play and having fun, and there's never really been a serious tone to it. And I work in architecture mainly now, but because I had such an unconventional path, play has always been at the origin of it. And I think there is that sense of sterileness and seriousness with design that makes it inaccessible and takes it away from the domestic and how people do live. So I wanted to show things in a more natural setting of how you would live with design pieces and take collectible design into a sort of different lens.
Nice. And can you walk us through the space a little bit for those who are not visiting?
Sure. You enter, and on the front door straight away you have a calendar with cats on it. And when friends come, they've been putting in different things in the calendar as well, so that's adapting too. Then you enter down into the dining room, which has been changing depending on the time of day, what meal and what level of Sudoku has been done. And then you go into the kitchen where there's a constant sort of breakfast scene of friends bringing things to eat, and everyone's looking a bit confused when I walk past and take a croissant. But and then our chef, because we're doing an event tonight, she was actually cooking there today. So there has been an element of accidental theatre happening. And then when you go upstairs, you have the bedroom where the bed's been unmade since this morning. And it's been my office a bit, so my laptop's been shifting around there, the lounge, through to the office. And the office is actually the contents of my office at home, and all the drawings are the preparation for the project. So there's all these details. The more time you spend, you can really pick up sort of part of the process and part of my life and practice as well.
So you said that you worked with around 37 different designers to put this together. What was your criteria in finding these designers?
There was no sort of pre-criteria at all. It was really designers whose work I've loved for a while, some friends, and then I discovered some new designers through the curation process, actually. Some of the pieces, there was a lot of wood and metal heavies, and I wanted to find some more stone-based works as well, and discovered some incredible designers. And some, for example, Thomas Takada, the paper lamps with the rock on the bottom. I wanted to bring more of a sort of international design audience to Copenhagen, because it can feel very Scandinavian for me sometimes and very clean, so it's bringing a bit of chaos and international design to Copenhagen.
And you told me that this is the first time you decided to join 3 days. How come?
I visited the first time last year, and the city has a really good energy to it. This feels like a slightly calmer, more digestible design festival for me. It did have that cleanness for me that I wanted to disrupt slightly. And it felt like the perfect first place to do something that's slightly disruptive.
And how do you feel it's been received?
It's been received super well so far. We have had a few people entering and said their initial sort of response was to be slightly stressed and start tidying, but then they settled into it after a while. But no, most people have embraced the chaos, but there has been, a tiny bit of panic from OCD people, I think.
And can you mention a few of the designers and brands you've been working with?
Sure. So out of the 37 designers, we have some locally, but then there's quite a lot from London, that some of them actually came in my hand luggage with me. And the table downstairs, we have this beautiful candelabra from Mu Tong Yang. And then she's done a lamp upstairs with Yamo Yan, who makes these beautiful silk tapestries, who just graduated from the RCA. We contacted them both separately, and then they happened to know each other and done a collaborative piece together.
And what about the specific location we are in? How did you find it?
Nora Residency actually got in touch with me, and it's normally rented out as a holiday rental or for shows and exhibitions. And we just started chatting about initially me staying here, and then we were bouncing back this idea of doing an exhibition, and it scaled into this way. And the owner of the space, Michael, is a photographer, and he's renovated all of the spaces, so they have quite a different feeling to most Copenhagen apartments. So that was really fun to play with, and a lot of designers have made new pieces for the show, responding to the colour schemes and forms of the space. A real sort of collaborative effort between designers, the space, myself, brands, and everything's really taken place from conversations and people through people. We were saying we should draw a map of all the connections involved, because it's so sprawling now, and it would be great to see it visualised.
That was Charlotte Taylor. Gab, is 3 days of design becoming more and more international?
Yeah, 100%. I think more and more brands, more and more people are coming here every year to showcase. Charlotte's showcase, it was a take on Scandinavian style, a response to this minimalism that has been going on in Scandinavia for a long time and this kind of showroom style. So it's also nice to see how people come from abroad, not just to bring their own products and showcase them in yet another city, another fair, but also how they interact with local design and the local scene, which here remains very strong.
Speaking of coming from abroad, I feel like there are so many Australians here at 3 Days of Design. I was at a dinner the other night and a Paris-based Australian journalist told a Barcelona-based Australian journalist that there were too many Australian journalists at that very dinner. But I think it's a thing that obviously I was in that number as well. But I think this is something that seems to have popped up this year. There are so many Australians here. Grace Charlton, you're also in that number.
We're taking over. It's super exciting. We went to a little showcase at the gallery Mikkel Andersen that an Australian brand called Now had taken over to show designs by Tom Faraday and Adam Goodrum. And I spoke to Richard Manow, who's the founder of the brand. And yeah, he was just saying that people were really drawn into the showroom by what they were seeing, the bright colours, the cool shapes. Obviously we're biased, but I think Australian design is at the cutting edge of where we'll be going next.
Completely biased, but I'm right there with you. I think Australia as a country, there's a really strong appreciation for craft. We saw that in the products that were made, despite us maybe not having that tradition that you have in Denmark. We don't have the host of famous mid-century furniture designers that maybe are weighing down the younger designers here. You're trying to carry on that legacy. By contrast, in Australia, we're really almost just starting to build potentially huge legacies right now. So let's hear a little bit of your conversation with Richard.
I've always been passionate about design, and I guess that gives you a good vehicle to look for good things that are made really well. And I think if you think about Copenhagen and you think about being here in Denmark as part of 3 Days of Design, I mean, they make the best timber furniture in the world.
And also you're maybe aware of the logistics and a perfectionist when it comes to stuff like joinery and like resisting the flat pack as an easy solution. But then, you know, the sort of logistics that come with that. And for you to be here in Copenhagen right now is crazy.
No, we've really started as a retailer and now launching our own Australian brand. I think you learn a lot from actually talking to customers about what we do well by importing. It's actually quite nice to flip it and make sure that we take those things into context when we go out and start to explore other parts of the world. You know?
So you're exploring Copenhagen, you're here at 3 Days for the first time. Why did you choose 3 Days rather than Milan?
You know, as you know, Milan's had the fusion of fashion, and I think one of the things that I really struggle with is the noise. As a brand, an unknown brand that doesn't have a European database. I mean, how do you get seen? How do you get known? And I think Copenhagen and 3 Days of Design, to me, feels a lot more inclusive. You don't see the queues for people to get in and all the stuff that actually Milan has become, which I think in some ways is almost, as a brand, you don't really want to be that inaccessible. So my view was that this is accessible if we can pick the right location. Being opposite the Danish Design Museum is pretty uniquely a positive experience for us. And people just walk in and think, who is this? We're in day 2, but it's been terrific.
And I think maybe people are drawn in by the beautiful colours, the purple, the orange. Maybe walk us through the actual designs that are here and the designers that you're working with.
Adam Goodrum and Tom Faraday have come to join us. I guess it's pretty important for them as well to be showcased in I think, probably the design capital of the world. To me, the colours, it shows the uniquely Australian fresh. I mean, I keep saying that, you know, unlike Denmark, where, you know, to be a designer with the heritage of designers that they have, I mean, how do you stand out? And I think what's quite nice, and what I've heard from people is that this is fresh, it's different, it's not a play on anything else, it's uniquely Australian.
And I'm totally biased, but I do believe that Australia is on the cutting edge of like what's trendy is a bad word, but like when I'm back in Sydney and I even just go to like a little cafe or a shop, I just feel that's where the rest of the world is catching up with. I
think architecture and interiors, I think we're pretty much leading the way, particularly in workplace interiors as well. I think what is quite good at the moment is this momentum that the industrial designers, if you think about Australian design, you think about Mark Newson in the product design sector, but who else? There's Featherston, which most people don't know about outside of Australia. There is this massive Australian design movement. I think the confidence of going initially, I think we did what we did really well, but we never really went off and showed it off. This is one vehicle to start getting that Australian design movement on the product side. What I think is quite nice and I always talk about is the way that the Danish in particular go out and conquer markets collectively. And that's been the way I felt at the beginning. It's changed a little bit because most of these brands are now being bought by bigger brands. So it's become a little bit different to what it was when we started. But I was talking at NGV when Melbourne Design Week started, and I talked a little bit about there are some great designers, and it doesn't have to be now on its own. It could be this Australian design movement that we can start to go and conquer together, because I think together is what made Denmark as strong as it is, as it went out to the markets. And I think we could do the same. There's some great Australian designers, and we don't have to own it on our own. We could go and just be a bit more of a collective force to say, well, Australia is on the map.
You come from a very strong business background. For you coming here, you're also meeting like buyers, retailers, all that. It's funny because to me 3 days is maybe less commercial than Milan, but there is that commercial undercurrent that maybe the Danes don't talk about.
There's definitely a commercial undercurrent. I think there's no question about that. I think what's quite different is that the way that they do it is very different to what you feel when you're in Italy or Milan. My view on this was, people say, where could we buy it from? And that's part of what we're here for. We're here actually to see if people are interested, see whether what we believe is good is actually seen the same way by the European consumers, dealers. So already it's quite nice that someone from Switzerland wants to be the agent and someone from Belgium. That's really what we're here for.
That was Richard Manal. Yeah, I think it's interesting how not coming from a big old tradition of mid-century modern is probably the best thing for Australian designers. It's very liberating, and it's history in the making right now. So that's exciting.
Yeah, 100%. Now, what else have you got excited about while we've been in Copenhagen?
It's also fun to come and see like a new brand doing a little showcase. I swung by Luce, and I spoke to Davide Macari and Julius Yule, who have just launched their brand, and they take a lot of inspiration from brutalism and Japan, and this is the land of mid-century forever, and they are very inspired by wellness. They're very research-based as a studio. They care a lot about how we live in our environments. A lot of the products on show were like incense holders or oil burners.
Brilliant. I feel like we're at the mid-year mark. Everyone's kind of a little bit worn down. We're heading into summer. Maybe we could use a little bit of Luce in all of our lives right now. So let's hear from the duo.
The whole idea behind Luce is exploring or studying how the space around us shapes our behaviors and personalities. The way that you place a desk in your room shapes your productivity, and that is applied through everything.
The things that you surround yourself with has an effect on your behavior, on your mood, on your productivity, and basically studying how can we create some products that can influence the way that you interact with a space. And like one of the key first discoveries was like both the oil diffuser and also the incense tray. We've spent a lot of time in Asia and seen that incense has like a significant role there. They use it to clean the air, this kind of like ritual around it. You have like this preconceived idea when you're walking into a space that smells and that affects your neurological system. And then you get, oh, I'm in this mindset now. I'm in this like behavior because that little thing influences the way that I act in that space. All of the different objects, they're all working with some materials that we like to work with, stainless steel and concrete. In Japan, especially, we've seen that the materials, concrete and stainless steel, they're seen as like these very raw and pure, elegant materials. Whereas we here experience them a little bit more from a rough side. We see them as like some post-World War constructions, brutalism, like all of these things. And we felt that that was a bit of a misconception. So we wanted to see how can we emphasize some of these things, make something elegant from these things. A lot of the objects are inspired by our travels, especially to Japan, seeing like the Japanese architects work with these materials. And how can we create some objects that sort of highlights this use of that material.
So playing a lot with like very hard materials in a certain sense, as Julius was mentioning, concrete and steel, but with organic shapes. So everything from like the table, the sun diffuser and so on, we're trying to take out that roughness from like the industrial side, like the materials, and placing them, giving them like a more like a soft approach. So like also the mirror that is like full on stainless steel panel, brushing the edges. So you take out that rectangular shape and make more like a softer approach.
I guess my final question for you guys, which is something I love to ponder, is beauty of function in and of itself. Why does it matter to have like beautiful stuff around you?
I think we both love the idea of form and function coming together. A lot of the objects that we're, let's say, working around also have multiple functionalities. Like a side table, you have the ability to move it up and down, and depending on like where you place it, it has like a different functionality. I think also the incense holder has like a function to it. I think we like to work in that space where there's also like a use case for things. We also study a lot in like health and that aspect of things. And here it's also trying to find this middle ground between what is something that you can aesthetically integrate into your life and what is something that has a functional benefit. So whatever that might be, if it's like supplements that you're taking, but how can you make those appear in a more, let's say, beautiful way?
It goes also back to the whole concept of Area Luce. So like how the space and everything around you shapes your your productivity or behaviors and personality. So having beautiful products around you shape the way that you behave and so on.
That was Davide Macari and Ulysio. So, Gab, I mean, we're so lucky to have a local here to give us the inside scoop. What have people been talking about? What's the buzzy event?
As per almost every year, I think the most buzzing events are the ones that are newer and from maybe smaller designers. This is something that you see in Copenhagen year-round. We talked about earlier how the creative community here is really strong and tight-knit. There's always an appetite for what smaller studios and more emerging designers are doing. So, of course, you expect the big brands to do their showcases, but I think there's a lot of excitement for new talent. And 3 Days of Design has really become more and more every year this platform for emerging talent, and I'm really happy about that. I think it's a really good sign.
I think it's also about carving out space for this talent. There was a showcase this year for the first time called Other Circle, a new design salon coinciding with 3 Days of Design. That's a little bit controversial and a little bit juicy in itself. It's kind of operating just outside, but what it is doing is exploring the overlap between design, art, music, food, fashion, and it's all led by the creative director Silas Adler, who used to run the clothing brand Soulland. And the fact that he's come from fashion and is kind of moving into this design world shows that maybe the direction, maybe the future of these so-called creative industries is about dissolving these traditional boundaries, these silos that we typically operate in. So the showcase featured over 50 participants, I guess, working across all these disciplines. In that number, in those people kind of showing works, is Forma. Now, they're an international creative platform headed up by Etienne Deroux and Ray Boxer. And the reason I chose to speak to them is that they work, I guess, with a wide range of creatives across those kind of disciplines. They're sort of like the brand that encapsulates what Other Circle is about. They work with people across design, fashion, music as well. They're working on a record player, but they essentially not only produce new products, but find and source old ones and put them on this online platform where people can buy them, but also connect with each other. So I spoke to Etienne and he had this to say.
Back in 2021, when I started the brand, I really wanted to create something that could work as a playground, that could work as like a lab where I could experiment different things. So my background is in fashion design. There's a big aspect of Forma that revolves around clothing, and we have a line of clothing that's unisex. It's very black and white, well-made, simple clothes. So that's a big part of the brand, but it's also branches out into objects. So we have a line of small items and small objects. We use our online platform for our community. So it's kind of an open door policy where different designers come in, present projects of theirs, and we just showcase them online, like as a store. We just launched a turntable with a French designer called Jean-Baptiste Anotin, Waiting for Ideas. So it's a very special turntable, the new technology where you put the vinyl in like a CD, and it reads the vinyl from under. So there's no arms, there's no diamonds, it's like a whole new technology. We just love the objects, we put it online. And the other part is where collaborating and editing comes to play, is like we try to develop projects with people we love and admire. We're presenting here an installation that's inspired by Brutali's Playground, and especially Enzo Mari's Playground, that was designed by NM3 from Milan. We reworked a take on Gerrit Riedveld's crate chair. Like the design is in public domain, like the plans is in public domain. So we used the plans and made a rework of that crate chair in steel. And we made a metal crate chair, which I don't think had been done before. So that's our take on like, okay, we're making a design product and we're editing it and we're selling it online as well.
For younger design brands, you're operating in an ecosystem where so many of these furniture making companies or fashion houses have been around for decades, centuries. What are you doing different? What's this new generation of design brands, of creatives doing that's maybe setting yourself apart from the big houses that are showing here at 3 Days of Design in Copenhagen?
The younger generation is very agile with what they do, and they have no problems jumping from clothing to furniture to objects to music. And that's what sets them apart. If you compare in terms of volume and numbers and presence and budgets, like, yeah, it's a bit of a David versus Goliath situation. But what makes the game interesting is like you're trying to think of it outside the box, you're trying to be more agile, you're trying to collaborate with your friend, you're trying to be faster on making decision and like turning, okay, like older design plans that are in public domain, what do I do with it? That's a question that takes 6 months in every other corporation.
How quickly did you make that chair?
From idea to delivery, like probably 2 months, 3 months. It's like, oh, hey, could we do that? Sure, why not? Like, do we know where to do that? Sure, well, let's give this guy a call.
So there's an agility to it.
Yeah.
You've got clothes, you've got a crate chair, you've got a record player, scenography. Is there an ethos or a guiding thread that kind of unites this all?
We make things we can't find, or we find things we can't make. For the clothing I was mentioning earlier, we own our material, like our fleece material. I wanted to recreate this like very heavy American fleece that's like reverse weave. The issue is like in the US, all of these materials are made of polyester, like 40, 50, 60% usually. So we recreated this. It's 100% cotton and it doesn't exist. We created something that we couldn't find. And on the reverse, like that turntable, amazing product, amazing design. We couldn't make that. We found it. So here you go. I think that's the ethos and the big inspiration behind the brand. I remember traveling to Texas a lot for business, and you would go to like smaller town, and then there would be one store, and they would sell like cohort gear for the workers, and they would sell like food, fishing stuff, literally whatever you could think of. And I was always amazed by that because there was some kind of curation. It was answering a need to a community. And yeah, you could get dressed, you could fix your car. And I always thought that was kind of cool and missing to maybe a size at the end of the day that wasn't Muji and that wasn't IKEA. So that's where it's coming from.
That was Etienne Deroux of Forma. We're kind of bringing this show to an end. Gab, I want to throw to you first. Any big takeaways from the recent 3 days?
You know, we've been talking about it last year, is that it's becoming more and more international. For many years, if you work within the industry, is this crazy week where, you know, rushing from place to place, setting up your showroom like a week before, 2 weeks before. Now I feel like more people in the city outside the industry know about it. And I think that is just a sign of how big it's becoming.
Grace, is this why these events are important? Is it about, I guess, you know, spreading the message of good design to the masses?
For sure. I mean, I hope that we can keep coming back and that it won't sort of become this beast that almost eats itself because it's so popular. But we'll see. Maybe
truly it will reach its own saturation point, because I do think, you know, Copenhagen as a city is quite small, it's quite compact. There are only a certain number of venues where I guess brands can showcase their work. Maybe truly it will stop itself from growing, but I think that's also what makes it beautiful, because you can very easily bounce between different venues, walk between different venues. We've been riding around the city on Lime bikes, just truly being able to soak this up. Speaking of, I don't want to hold either of you any longer. There's Copenhagen to explore. We've got one final day here. Thank you so much for joining Monocle on Design. That's all for today's show. For more design stories, listen to our 5-minute midweek bonus show, Monocle on Design Extra, which airs on Thursdays. And if you enjoy print, then do pick up a copy of Monocle magazine as well. It's on all good newsstands now. You can also read a recap of 3 Days of Design at monocle.com. Today's episode was produced and edited by Maylee Evans. I'm Nick Manise. My thanks to Grace Charlton and Gabriella Delasanti. Thanks for listening.